we're live. If you guys found out, we're actually having the after show on the Great Debate community page. So if you're lucky enough to figure out how to get over there, you can watch this. If not, well, you're kind of SOL. So. And again, Richard, you're muted. You need a mute. You're watching the live feed. Go get Richard. Did you explain? Did you take Richard? No. Somebody explain it. Listen, you're listening to the live feed. There you go. Thank you. Mute because you're listening to the live feed. Go find Richard. Go find Richard, and he'll.
Aron not here yet?
Aren't not here yet. Yeah.
Can I ask Atheist a question while we're waiting?
Can I ask for the watch link, and then I can share it while you're asking your question?
May.
I'll answer a question.
Is that Ochinawa?
Ouchiwawa.
Ochiwawa. Damn it.
Ouchiwawa.
Is that a Native American tribe?
No.
What is
not.
it? What is it?
It's just a random thing. I actually made it up whenever I was making a YouTube account because I was like, I'll never make videos, and then ended up.
That's how it always. Hey, do you think someone would choose Thunderfoot or Dark Matter 2525 as their? I mean, if they thought they were going to get big, think about it. If it's an afterthought, oh God, I got big, and now I'm Dark Matter. You know. Anyway, here we go. Ready?
We're live.
Okay. This is for Ochiwawa. Is that right?
Close enough.
Can we agree that human suffering can be objectively and scientifically measured? Can we both agree that human suffering can be objectively and scientifically measured?
I don't know about scientifically, but sure, it can be objectively measured. Sure.
Yeah, this is just okay. Can we also agree that human well-being can be objectively and scientifically measured?
Sure.
Okay, can we agree that morality is a definition, the desire to increase well-being while decreasing suffering?
No, I don't agree. I don't really agree with that. I think that.
Tell me why.
So I think morality is ultimately us desiring the good,
right?
But the
good can almost be a religious context. I'm saying just human. You already said that human well-being and suffering can both be measured. If they can be measured, can we agree that morality is the desire to increase the good one and decrease the bad one?
What do you mean by measured?
Scientifically,
yeah,
like actual scientific method.
So
scientific method.
So yeah, sure. I have a different definition for what good is. I think that's the issue. I think good is just the good is whatever makes us happy.
Right, increasing happiness, that could be increasing well-being, yes.
But I don't think it's primarily the happiness of other people. It's primarily your own happiness, because you're going to want to say.
I never said other people. I only said increasing happiness, increasing well-being of the particular individual. I'm not talking about other people. Sure. I'm talking about yourself, just you for now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we can objectively measure well-being and suffering, then we can agree that morality is the desire to increase the well-being while decreasing the suffering. Correct?
Sure. I don't agree.
Well, okay, I'm not even at my conclusion, but tell me why not.
Because if you're increasing happiness and decreasing suffering, that can
affect other people.
Which is
I'm not talking about that. I'm only talking about yourself right now.
Myself.
We'll get to other people in a minute.
Okay.
I think that's good enough for now.
Yeah, just for you as a human being, as a Homo sapien sapien, can we agree that objectively we can measure your well-being and your suffering?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then we can agree that morality for just you, just for now, is the desire to increase your well-being and decrease your suffering. Yes?
Well, technically, morality would be what you ought to do in order to increase your.
I'm not saying oughts not oughts. It is not oughts.
Or what you need to do in order to increase your happiness.
Is that your definition of morality?
Well, my conclusion was going to be, therefore, at least to some extent, morality is objective even for atheists.
Oh, I agree. I think that it is. I hold to that.
How do you get to that? You can agree, but how do we get to that? How can we say as atheists that we are objectively moral?
Yeah, well, when you say moral, you mean that as an atheist, you do what's morally good. But I think
but we got to define what's morally good.
Yeah. So let's say moral realism is true. That just means there is a true standard of morality. Now, morality is oughtness, the way we ought to think, talk, and act. Yes. Okay. So if that exists, then of course you can be. I don't think the argument from theism would be you can't be morally good. There might be that argument, but I think
they do say that a lot. They say it all the time.
Normally,
some of them.
Yeah, philosophical argument for theism is normally just the fact that morality does exist, but it can only be grounded in a personal reality, i.e. a personal ultimate reality being God. It can't be grounded in an impersonal ultimate reality. So the argument would be morality is the way we ought to think, talk, and act. But then that requires, how could that be grounded in an impersonal ultimate reality, which is its fundamental forces are purposeless, meaningless, and all that? Because if it was a personal reality, then you can understand how there should be a way we ought to act. But you can't understand how there would be if it was grounded in an impersonal ultimate reality, which is the argument normally. I don't think a theist would normally say you can't be moral. Now, there might, but that...
Mister, sorry to break in, but I'm just going to back up and we'll go, just since Aron came on. What we're talking about is morality from an atheist viewpoint, and I'm arguing that as atheists we can, as everyone, we can agree that human suffering can be objectively and scientifically measured, and human well-being can be objectively and scientifically measured. Therefore, we can agree that morality is a desire to increase well-being while decreasing suffering. And also, therefore, our final conclusion is that to some extent, morality can be objective even for non-believers.
The whole
All right, go ahead,
for
Mister.
me is whether you can define what morality is. And
I think I just did.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, because I used the theoretical bullshit. His definition. You know, if we all agree that that's what morality is, and that does seem to be the case, that we all agree that that's what morality is, then it can be objectively determined.
I mean, even the Bible says that that the Gentiles can know what is right and wrong, right? So it's not as if some Christians make this argument from the moral argument, but ultimately that stems from a misunderstanding, I think.
I would agree.
If we can all agree that suffering and well-being can be objectively and or scientifically measured, we have to start there.
But there isn't.
It has to be measured. If it's true, it's true, regardless.
I don't see why you're asking for measurements. It's not a quantifiable system.
Yeah, we have to quantify it. We have to.
How do you quantify it? Yeah,
that's a scientific
all
method.
we have to do is define it. And if that definition is independent of God, then we get to trace that definition against God.
Sure, you can define it. Yeah, I just don't say how you quantify it.
Let's define suffering and well-being. If we all agree on what the definition is, we can agree that.
What's your definition of well-being versus someone else's definition of well-being?
It's a great. Well, suffering and well-being is a gradient scale based on human experiences.
One man's suffering can be another man's well-being, though, and vice versa.
Good point. That's a good point. It's based on your perception, right?
Yes.
It's based on your lifestyle.
There is
like us, a first world, we're living in, we make 50,000 plus a year, and suffering for us might be way less than, someone that lives in Uganda.
Yeah, but the thing is, like I say, most philosophers would say that morality is the way, it's oughtness, the way things ought to be. So I think you've got an identity problem if you say morality is just the well-being. I would say well-being is a property of being. It is moral to have to make creatures flourish, but it's not that it is flourishing, because we could think of a possible scenario where it wouldn't be moral to make creatures flourish, say bacteria that's going to kill us or something like that. So the sense is here that it's just that it's the way it ought to be. Now, that either is true or not. There really is moral realism, or there's not, just like there really is a universe, or there's not. Now, whether we can measure it is not going to prove anything in the sense of whether you're, well, it will prove it for you personally. But what I mean is, you're either being moral or you're not. If it exists, you are. But I think the argument for most theists is that if there is this moral reality, that there's this oughtness, then it can only be grounded in an ultimate reality. If ultimate reality is personal, i.e. God exists, it just doesn't seem possible that you could ground a moral reality in an impersonal ultimate reality, because an impersonal ultimate reality, its fundamental metaphysical forces would be intentionless.
Wait. What do you mean metaphysical forces?
It's beyond, the very fundamental nature of reality. So you think the forces.
That's where you lost me.
Okay, so let's see the forces and processes of ultimate reality. They're either guided or unguided. They're either aware or they're unaware. They're either intentional or intentionless. Okay, so if ultimate reality is impersonal, then they're intentionless, purposeless, meaningless. Now, it doesn't seem possible you could ground a moral reality in an ultimate reality that's impersonal, because if morality is the way things ought to be, there is no oughtness. Now, you can understand.
I don't know where I said ought. I never said ought in my premises or my conclusion.
Okay, so morality, you said, is just well-being, but to me, that doesn't mean that we ought to then therefore make creatures flourish.
I never said ought. I've never said ought.
Well, for philosophers, when I've studied ethics,
I'm not a philosopher.
Okay. Well, morality is oughtness, the way things ought to be.
Yeah, so I'm not an ought.
Yeah.
This is not an odd question. Go ahead, Richard.
Jim, I wonder if you're making an assumption there with the idea that morality is well-being. Like, aren't you assuming, for example, that people have some sort of intrinsic value? Would you be making that assumption? Because if morality equals well-being, then why wouldn't, like, the question is, why is that? Why is it?
That's a great question. And it's probably going to go back to Aron, because this is an evolutionary, intrinsic, genetic thing where we as Homo sapiens sapiens would never have formed societies if it weren't beneficial to us and if we had not gained a survival advantage because of joining societies.
Since you mentioned my name, I just want to throw in there that what gave us advantage over other animals was not our intellect. It was our camaraderie. It was our sense of society. It was our apathy for our family, friends, and fellows. That when you look at population mechanics, that somebody who's looking out for themselves might be the ideal for natural selection. But when we're talking about a social animal, we are talking about somebody that follows more the selfish gene. If everybody's read The Selfish Gene, it shows the brother of the actual gene provider also shares half their genes with that person. So if you sacrifice your life or you do whatever you can to promote everybody else in your community, then over terms of many generations in population mechanics, your genes ultimately will end up being the ones that survive and not the aberrations that are only interested in themselves. And I'm going to.
But the thing is with that, Aron, and it may work, but the thing is, it begs the question on if there is a moral reality, because either we evolved to have a delusion that there's a moral reality, or we evolved to discover it. Just the same way that, just the same way that if we have evolved to do chemistry, doesn't therefore say, well, chemistry is just a delusion. We either evolved to have this illusion there's such thing as a chemistry, or evolved to discover that there really is chemistry. Well, the same way we have an experience of a moral reality, we have an experience that it's there. Now that experience either evolved to give us the illusion that it's there, and therefore it's illusionary, or we've evolved to discover it. And we're not discovering it obviously through physical senses, we're discovering it by some other means. And so the question is being begged by giving the evolutionary scenario.
You made an assumption there. Why is it not discovered that way?
Sorry, are you talking to me?
Yes. You said it wasn't discovered.
So what's the question?
So I'm asking you why you said that.
Well, I would say that when I experience a moral reality of the way things ought to be, it's not my eyes telling me that it's the way it ought to be. It's not my hearing. Now they give me information about the fact, but
why do you say that?
Well, because it's just the same way that I know my five senses don't give me my thoughts. They might add information to my thoughts, but my thoughts are an aspect of my mind.
There's already a determination that's been made that we are talking about some kind of well-being. We may disagree on the nature of it exactly, but it's the individual's perception of what is beneficial is what is being strived after. You can acknowledge that an individual by themselves is only going to be primarily concerned with their survival. And it's not until we started forming society groups that we actually started thriving as individuals. And this is going to be a clear distinction that will be perceived by your senses. It will be reasoned and rationed by your mind, as it is by most social species we know of. So it's not as though we're dealing with something that's imagined. We're actually dealing with things that we know are happening.
Yeah, Carrie,
it's not illusory.
Carrie, I think this might raise like an important distinction, right, between moral realism and moral anti-realism. Because if you're taking the evolutionary perspective, I don't know if that can account for moral realism. Because I like what Ochiwawa pointed out in the chat, that all kinds of animals are social creatures, and they've, like, a lot of animals have evolved these social taboos, and they all baboons will exhibit behavior that might look like it's moral behavior, but then the question would be, are we attributing some sort of intrinsic value to baboons, right? So I think it would come down to that, moral realism versus moral anti-realism, and whether an evolutionary model can account for moral realism.
What do you mean intrinsic value to baboons? What did you mean by that?
Intrinsic value that's in and of yourself, rather than value that's given by another individual.
I think that it's really easy to turn this into an ought, though. You just say, if we want to increase well-being, then we ought to do X.
That was never said. That was never stipulated.
Yeah, but that's my position.
Okay, this is where we have to get back to the definition. Do we agree on what morality is?
Yes.
So
suffering, well-being.
As I have argued, that a particular action or choice is moral or right if it somehow promotes happiness, well-being, or health, or if it somehow minimizes unnecessary harm or suffering, or both.
Fucking A. Exactly.
Yeah, but the thing is,
take that as a yes.
Yeah, I would say that that's an aspect of morality, because if morality is the way things ought to be, and then we affirm that one way things ought to be is that sentient creatures ought to flourish and be happy rather than be tormented, then that would just be one aspect of it. But the fundamental core is it's the way it ought to be, because when we're talking about morality, we're also talking about a moral obligation, the way we ought to be. It doesn't just happen to be.
You keep saying ought, Carrie. There's no we're under no obligation for an ought.
Okay, well then the morality then wouldn't exist.
It just is.
Yeah, to be or not to be, there is no ought.
Okay, well, morality is all about what we can do.
I don't see. If we already have isness, we already have. Okay, well then there is no morality, because we already have isness. You're not attributing morality to
we've already established that well-being and suffering can be objectively and scientifically measured.
And we've also defined what morality is. So there's
a different definition.
I'm sorry?
But we both agree that suffering and well-being is the definition of morality.
But how
the increasing of well-being and the decreasing of suffering.
I can give you the missing piece.
Does somebody want to follow a different definition of morality?
Okay, it's not. Here's the thing: morality. When we talk about morality, usually in philosophical terms, it's an aspect of reality. You're given an aspect of reality that there's pain and suffering. Okay, but you're adding no other aspect. The morality is a layered-on aspect that that there is something more than just the pain and suffering. That there's some other layer of reality. That there's a way that shouldn't happen. That we shouldn't.
No. I never said that. At what point did I ever say that? No.
No, I know. You're not saying that.
Suffering exists and well-being exists.
Okay, but then why call one morality and call the other not morality?
No, we both agreed to call the combination of the two, increasing one and decreasing the other, morality. We have already established that we would agree that is the definition of morality.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then you've made a bit of a semantic gaffe there. I think what I'm hearing here is this: people are asking, like, well, where's this word ought coming from? Why are we throwing in the word ought? The word morality is by its nature what ought to be done.
I never said ought.
Be done. Well, then you're not talking about morality. Okay.
Richard and Carrie are the only ones saying ought. I've never said ought. I'm just saying what is.
No, as soon as you say the word morality, you import the notion of ought. Now, I think
I don't know.
When you ask people if they agreed on the definition that, well, increasing well-being, decreasing harm or suffering, or whatever sort of definition you want to tie it to, we'll call that morality. And okay, well then we got to be a little picky about the language then, because if you're saying that like an increase in well-being is an increase in well-being, An increase in well-being isn't morality. The notion of morality is that one ought to do things that would, in your example, increase well-being. As soon as you use the word morality, what you're talking about is what ought to be done or ought not to be done.
I think you're applying that. I think you're applying that. Is that Carrie? Yeah, you're applying that where it's not necessary.
Hang on. Let me ask Hogtie a question. How are you differentiating between morality? And I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just saying, how do you differentiate between morality and normative ethics in that case?
No, I don't know what normative ethics are, so I find
normative ethics is what you're supposed to do.
Let's look at a person with his hand over a flame, a big lighter, say. Okay, so a person with his hand in a natural state with a lighter not under him is the default position. And now we put a big lighter under his hand, and now we start burning his skin. We can say that that increases suffering, and that is morally is causing suffering. And there is no ought there.
How is it morally causing suffering? It is causing suffering.
But we're agreeing that morally it's increasing suffering.
It's one entity causing suffering to another.
Yeah. No,
that's
it'd be like
the nature
saying,
of the entire moral
this is the
condition is that it's a comparative analysis.
This is the difference. If you agreed that to prepare for a road trip, a person ought to do things to put them in a position to be well prepared for a road trip, then you might include amongst those oughts things like, we got to make sure you have enough fuel in your car. But the action of putting fuel in my car is just putting fuel in my car. So I'm putting gas in the car, and you can see
those are precursors. And you're saying odd again. Those are precursors.
I'm trying to explain. If you're going to interrupt every time I get to the same explanation, you're not going to get shit out of it. So, see, what you're doing is you're saying that an increase in suffering is like you're throwing in the word morality, like you're saying, you know, where it's you know, fuck, I lost my point now. Go ahead.
Okay, you're in your car and you're preparing for things. Those are not that lends nothing to the morality. If you freeze to death in your car through lack of preparedness, that is a increase in suffering. That's what I'm talking about. It's morally unethical for you to be in your car without the proper provisions. So you need to prepare for that.
So are you saying that we shouldn't be in our car without those positions?
Oh, it's vitally important in this case.
Well, that's the same as ought. Saying that you should do
yes, it is, but it's not vital to the argument.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Ought people not commit suicide? I think this will make a distinction. Should they not commit suicide?
People can commit suicide in whatever manner they want to. There is no
whatever reason. For whatever reason, death with dignity is one of the only means of death that the Bible doesn't endorse.
Yeah, I think the key issue here is that morality is seen as, by definition, as its fundamental nature. It's just oughtness. This is how every philosophical book I've read on it addresses it. To say that there's
but you're talking to me. You're talking to Jim Hall. I never said ought. We never introduced ought. You carry and
morality becomes a meaningless term. Let me give you an example of this. Let's just say okay, are we going to define morality here as someone eating peanuts, and something immoral is that they eat raisins? Okay, the word moral means nothing there. It's just, why don't we just say that man's eating peanuts, isness, he is eating peanuts, or he is eating raisins? Morality is oughtness. In philosophy, the key distinction here is that we already have isness. Morality is this separate thing called oughtness. Isness is already a factor. It makes no sense
you can justify that. I'm not sure you can justify that.
No. Each individual person defines what they want their morality to be. My morality is not the same as anyone else's here in this chat room.
If you're talking an actual philosophical definition of these things, you have to acknowledge that there's a difference between morality and ethics.
You can.
What is the difference?
The idea, essentially, as far as it's been explained to me in short term, is that you possess an understanding of the idea, for example, of increasing well-being and decreasing suffering. And that is for you an individual assessment. But in order for it to have any ought value, is what they're referring to, it's only in relation to you and something else or someone else.
But that's
that distinction.
So Kerry, what you're saying is morality doesn't exist in like an isolated thing, it's sort of like a vacuum.
Yeah, it's the whole argument if you're alone on a desert island or the only person alive in the universe, what is theft?
Because you can't steal from
We can
anybody.
define
Because
theft.
you can't
can
steal anyone.
scientifically
The
define
entire
theft.
idea of like murder, for example, involves that there is some action between you and another agent, and that within that nested boundary is where morality lies. Is it within that analysis?
Well, okay, but what about something like
But does that
masturbation?
nested
People think
boundary
that's-
define that you ought not steal from them? No, it doesn't. It just says
Well,
you either steal
what
from them or
param-
you will not steal from them.
If it's a nested boundary, then yes, because you've already identified what the boundaries are.
It never said you ought not do it.
Yes,
it says
you did.
Either you will steal from them or you will not steal from them.
No, you
one
already
increases suffering and one
defined what the
decreases
boundaries
suffering.
were. Yes, exactly. Right there, you defined the boundaries. So now, if you identify that stealing increases suffering, you already have created yourself a scenario where you should be able to calculate the equation out purely mathematically. You've increased the suffering of the situation. If at the point where you are deciding that your well-being increased more than the suffering you caused somebody else, you've now extracted them from the equation.
No,
So you have to take
okay.
both into equation at the same time.
Okay, up till now, I've only been talking about solipsism, just you yourself. Now we're talking about morality on a bigger scale, outside of yourself, those around you, and then morality changes.
That may have been where they were having a trouble with the definition, is because
we haven't gone there yet. Now we're talking about morality as it affects others around me, to the swing of my arm.
I think ought applies to within as well, because otherwise
there's no frame of reference.
If we're just talking,
but
for
Carrie,
example,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just say, Carrie, I'm agreeing with you, but what happens in isolated situation, like if there was no deity, why would it be immoral to masturbate? Because they always say masturbation is against, sinning against God. But in an isolated condition, let's say there is no other thing around, there is no God, how do you have a moral claim on that?
Name the Bible verse that says masturbation is against God.
Well, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it's not an argument.
It actually comes from natural law theory, which can be held up apart from God.
It's called onanism.
Irrelevant to my point. The point
there were actual things that were mentioned.
What is inherently immoral in an isolated condition about masturbation? And you're saying, I agree with you. Morals. You have to be able to do something, an effect to something, right? You can't commit murder. There's no other person around. You can't steal. There's no one to steal from. So
how would you therefore be justified in saying that masturbation is immoral?
That's my point. That's my question.
Anything to do with morality.
I
think it would just be another thing that could only have any application if you're talking about other people.
Well, there's
Aron's getting bored. Let's talk about evolution.
Well, I have an argument for the existence of God I could bring up.
Let's finish with this, because Ozzy's been trying to say some really good things in the live feed. I've been posting in the group chat, but it is important that we clarify some of the stuff, because I don't know how Jim is using when he's saying exactly what Ozzy was saying, when he's saying we should do something or we shouldn't or should not do something.
Should, could, or ought. I've never said that.
Okay, because once you're doing that, those are oughts. Those are
I've never said ought or could or should or need to or
as soon as you use the word morality, as soon as you talk about morals,
you're adding that. You added that on. That was
well. Then okay. How about we do it this way then? I cannot imagine what the word morality means. I'm sorry. I'm going to worry about a landmine here. Hold on.
It's ought.
Objection, Your Honor.
Morality literally is what we ought to do.
I asked this question before, but then you took it a different direction. You started saying, well, different people could have different moral values. Now, I understand that people can base their sort of their goals. Like, for example, I've spoken with evangelicals who will say that the difference between moral and immoral has to do with God's character. Right, it's got nothing to do with harms or benefits. Right, it's all entirely about God's character. But the point is, they're saying, well, when I decide what I ought to do or ought not do, it has to do with God's nature. And then, of course, my position is when I decide what I ought to do or ought not to do, it has to do with harms and benefits. Right. So the point is that when you're in a discussion about morality, you're framing something about what. That's what I'm trying to put to you here, is that you're talking about oughts and ought nots. So I guess what I'm asking you, what is morality? In your view, since you're objecting to the word ought, what is morality that, and don't give me an example of a moral system, but what is morality that is somehow free of oughts and ought nots?
That which increases well-being and that which decreases suffering. There's no odds
no.
in there.
Then no, I strenuously object to that definition then, because
how can you?
Because you are simply defining a thing that's happening in the world. That's why I attempted to use the example of if I put gas in my car and the gas gauge goes up, I'm putting gas in my car, and that can be observed by the gas gauge going up.
Increases well-being because it gets you to where you need to be.
Well, no. Well, then it may have other effects, but there's no morality. When you say increasing well-being, that's a thing that's happening. The sun is coming up.
But we've already established
that's happening.
Increasing well-being can be objectively and scientifically measured.
So can the amount of fuel in my gas tank. Yeah,
that increases well-being because it gets you where you.
No, it doesn't matter. That's not the point.
Without you running out of gas.
Forget about whether it's good or bad to put gas in the truck, right?
Okay. Sorry, Aron. I would like to know where his phylogeny Explorer project is headed in.
Oh, so fuck talking to me then. Okay.
I'm sorry. I just want to get Aron.
Yeah, I honestly, Jim, I love you. I gotta go with Hogtie in this one.
That's cool. That's cool. I want to go with Aron.
I also have to say that I haven't been part of this conversation for the last 10 minutes, and Hogtie has been dominating this conversation. So,
not a chance, Aron. Bullshit. I've been trying to get a word in on this point, but whatever.
I feel I won that.
You misunderstand me, Hogtie. This has been a conversation with Hogtie for the last 10 minutes. This was not a conversation with me. This was a conversation with Hogtie.
That's why I'm trying to get Aron in here. He's our celebrity guest. I would like to get his take on what the Phylogeny Explorer project is going at this time.
This is changing the subject.
That's cool.
It may be cool with you.
And I want to apologize, Aron. I reacted poorly. When you said dominated, I didn't know if you meant was being present in the conversation, or if I assumed you meant airtime.
I think Aron's point is that
I apologize, Aron. I reacted harshly.
No, I fully feel confident that I won that debate, even though I'm not good.
I don't think you did, Jim. I think
I solidly won that debate. But go ahead, Aron.
I was listening to Hogtie explain his position, and other people, were berating Hogtie on his position. But to the best of my understanding, I had nothing to do with that conversation. That was about you guys talking with him. And so to evoke me on a different subject is just to change the subject.
Well, you're here, and you're our only celebrity.
I'm not a fucking celebrity.
I've seen the shirt. He thinks he's a celebrity. I've seen the shirt.
What shirt?
The one that says I
actually had a comment on one of my channels that said, "Oh, Aron Ra, he's only a B-list celebrity, atheist celebrity." I was B-list. B-list is good.
Oh my goodness, you're gonna make me look this shit up, aren't you?
No, nobody cares.
If I may say one thing in my defense. I am going to be speaking at the Global Atheist Conference in Melbourne, Australia. They're giving me 5-star accommodations.
Oh, shit.
Next to Sir Salman Rushdie.
Oh! Are you going to get bodyguard protection with him?
And Professor Richard Dawkins, PhD. And I'm just this guy that never got a degree.
I'm not sucking you off, Aron, but I put you up there higher than Richard Dawkins at this point.
You know what? And I'm gonna say it too. I've never been a big fan of Richard Dawkins. I think he's wonderful, but I mean, I'm not crazy over his writings. Maybe this is the way he writes. Maybe this is the way he writes.
Aron's got much better arguments.
I love your writing, and I'm waiting to. I will read your book at some point because I think the foundational philosophy of creationism is just one of the most brilliant series of all time. I mean, that's the foundational bedrock of explaining to people why young Earth creation is bullshit.
I agree.
Thank you very much, but I do have to also confess that I'm about to wander out to some fast food place to get something like chicken wings or something that I desperately need to have at 11 o'clock at night.
Go to Popeyes.
Popeyes. He won't get that, Jim.
What was that?
Hey, let me screen this.
Go to Popeyes. I'll explain it later.
Hang on.
I did say we're not doing it now, but
the thing is nobody's going to know who I am. They never do.
Have you been recognized? I mean, I know when you come here, you're recognized because people invite you here. But I mean, have you been recognized like in your own community ever?
I walked into a department store at some point and somebody recognized me. I've walked into a couple of restaurants and somebody's recognized me. And
very recognizable.
Well, I mean, obviously in town they do. But what does it say? I'm famous on the internet. There you go. You see it?
You know what's funny about that?
That's my interview with him right there.
Yeah,
I wore that shirt and I wore it into I wore it into this place where I needed to buy motorcycle accessories. And there was this girl who walked by and says, "You're famous on the internet, so am I." And believe me, if you saw this girl, you would
You would know.
she was famous on the internet.
And Aron drove an hour and a half each way in the rain on this Harley Davidson to come to that interview.
No, if I rode a Harley, I'd be pushing it half of that way.
Well, yeah, but you're not G-Man level famous yet, right, Aron, though? Sorry.
Well, I got a message from Nephilim Free.
Oh, God.
About a year ago, I would guess, where he said that he was bragging to me directly that the reason no one has heard from me in the last few years is because he had so poorly put me down in our last debate. I'm like, when the fuck did we ever have a debate?
I'll have to send you it. He has a debate in his mind of what would happen if he actually would have had a debate with Dr. Hugh Ross. It is one of the most funniest things you'll ever see. To show how delusional he truly is.
I think if I talked to Dr. Ross directly, I would have more to agree with him than to disagree with him.
Well,
as an atheist, I've talked to him indirectly. He's Skyped our Atheist Christian Book Club.com, shameless plug. But yeah, I've never talked to him directly.
No, I love shameless plugs. Those shameless plugs are awesome. Actually, I think everybody should do them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he will be on September. Speaking of shameless plugs, I think September 29th he's coming on. So
awesome. No, I actually really respect that man.
Yeah, and he loves the Great Debate community. I mean, he actually has mentioned the Great Debate community and us in his sermons. That's how much he respects this community, and so does Fuzz Ron. I mean, yes, there are reasons to believe, and they know we don't, especially I don't agree with them theologically speaking, but they like the fact that we give them, a forum where they engage with us. They're civil. They like the dialogue. They find us to be very respectful most of the time. Most of us are. Obviously, shit happens like with Godless Girl, but I find that to be to me what I look for in a conversation. I want to see rational conversation between theists and atheists, and
right on.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
Amen, brother.
So a Godless Girl was trolling when she was doing that, because I was around when I left.
Yeah,
it got bad.
Yeah, well, I had to eject her.
Can I say before Aron runs off for fast food? That may have been a good call. I mean, I think there is actually an argument to be made under there. Some of the people she knows have actually researched a philosophical argument about how observations about natural selection don't necessarily lead to the conclusions that we think it does. And it's an interesting argument worth engaging, especially if you're interested in philosophy. I don't know about her presentation of it. I had actually started listening to the Hangout again just after she got kicked out. And so I used the PVR thing to wind back about 15 minutes, and I couldn't understand what she was asking you. There was interrupting and shouting, and she's screeching away. I think there is an interesting question under there, but she's kind of developing a sort of her on-air persona. She's very edgy, right? So she's the kind of person who, well, sure, I'm an atheist, but I don't always side with atheists. In fact, I'll take on atheists. And that's just all she does. She doesn't have sensible conversations with people. She just takes on atheists just to show the theist that she's so edgy she'll take on.
Well, what do you think, Josh? Why do you think Josh adopted this whole? Oh, I'm a theist now. Come on, no, he's not.
Oh, is he?
I think ejecting her was maybe a bit premature. We could have let her calm down a bit.
No, I had talked to her before. I told her if she gets this way, she's gone. I keep to my word.
Okay. But I was actually, I'm interested in listening to Aron talk about why TikTok is not. I feel that is a really knockdown tetrapod argument.
Yeah, what is your thing against TikTok? I think what he wrote about it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Tell me about TikTok.
Okay, so TikTok is basically a Canthostega with a neck.
It's a tetrapod with fins.
So is a Canthostega. So is Ichthyostega.
Yeah, but it took 6 tries, 6 different expeditions to find this specimen, and
How
they
many
found.
do you think it took to get Ichthyostega?
I don't know, more than 6.
It was people overlooking what they had already found.
But they knew exactly where to look, This is a prediction theory. This is good evidence for evolution.
Granted that one of the other additional things is that it have a neck. So we're only talking about arbitrarily which one appeals to me more. And
why did they know to look in Canada in this certain sedimentary layer? I just think Tiktaalik is knocked down.
Because that's where they already found Acanthostega and Ichthyostega.
Well, fuck me. Never mind.
No, I mean, I agree, but I still think it was pretty novel that they were able to find it. And I mean, it is a good transitional form. I mean, it's not the be all end all, but it is.
I think it's the be all end all. I think
we're talking right now about nothing more than aesthetics. About why do I prefer Acanthostega versus Tiktaalik? And I prefer Acanthostega over Tiktaalik because Acanthostega reminds me personally of the Darwin fish bumper sticker.
Can you describe the actual Acanthostega specimen?
Fish with legs.
Yeah. The Ichthyostega was found first and not recognized for what it was. It was somebody in the, I can't remember his name right now, but he had discovered it in like the 1930s and logged it away in a drawer somewhere, and it was forgotten about until Jenny Clack and Per Ahlberg rediscovered it in his own archives. So they were the ones to realize that here is an animal that has all these tetrapod traits and all these fish traits at the same time, but also has 8 toes. And somehow or other, the guy that originally had this since the 1930s had never bothered to notice that it had 8 toes. So this is somebody not paying attention to their work. So then they get, so then based on this, Jenny Clack and Per Ahlberg then move on to Greenland, because I know this is the strata that's most likely going to reveal the next Devonian transition after that, or previous to that, actually. And so that's exactly what they found. They found Ichthyostega gunnari. And I think it was actually Per Ahlberg that discovered it, but Jenny Clack wrote the paper about it. And so here was where we have a fish with fully functioning legs and feet and fingers, but it's a fish.
What year was that?
This was round about 1988.
So when was Tiktaalik?
Tiktaalik wasn't until 2005 or thereabouts.
Okay.
And as I said, the discovery of Ichthyostega, which is actually a lot more significant than what it was made out to be, was not recognized, wasn't documented. The guy just put the stuff in a drawer, didn't realize how important it was. And then Jenny Clack and Per Ahlberg discovered Acanthostega, which is a prequel to Ichthyostega, and is pretty much exactly the Darwin fish, the bumper sticker that you see, the little Christian fish that has little feet.
Yep.
Right. That's it. If you wanted the Darwin fish, that's Acanthostega right there.
Sorry, creationists, but that is nailing your coffin.
Oh, there's been so many nails in the creationist coffin. That's just,
okay.
That's true.
We've lost
All right. In case there's any creationists out there, that just so you know.
But anyways, in the group chat there, if I debated Hugh Ross, you got to see that. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, somebody just sent me a link. I'm going to see if I can remember where it was. I just looked. Oh, here it is. Yeah, somebody sent it. Hogtie Champ sent it to me in
Has it been bugging you at all lately? Because like G-Man, I don't know if you've been following the quote unquote divorce between G-Man and I, the feud that we've been having. But
I don't know anything about G-Man.
Really?
Yeah, and I got to clarify too. And Aron will back me up on this. When I mean, Aron and I don't talk terribly often, but it's always a random topic, and I don't do anything to make sure that Aron is up to speed on whatever G-Man did this week or whatever True Empiricism said about Aron this week. We literally don't talk about it unless, I don't know, when do we ever talk about it? If you actually clunk into them, like the time that they called you on Hangouts and it came to your phone and you took the call, that time I sent you a message and then we talked about it afterwards.
Is that the day that he called Matt?
I don't give you the day by day on, oh, Ronnie says this about you. Like,
well, no, I get that, but the funniest thing is that they've all said this. Well, you know what? Yeah, I'm never gonna go debate anybody like Aron Ra or PZ Myers because they're not at my level and kind of stuff. I'm just, oh, for fuck's sake.
Hey, that's worth telling Aron about, because you remember how Aron, you're now banned. You can't debate either. Yeah, you're banned.
Sorry,
Like,
man.
And for
what? Stay with it. Yeah, if you challenge G-Man to a debate, he will turn you down, and I think Trump will. Yeah.
You're not worthy enough.
You're not worthy.
Hey, listen,
I'm not making it up.
Ochinawa
Recently,
says he has a that Aron is afraid of answering his question
I
for the
was
existence
joking.
of God.
I was joking.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, never
Finish my
mind.
I mean-
sentence. Also recently banned Matt Dillahunty.
Yeah. After Matt had told G-Man, don't ever call me
He's
again.
wise.
Hey, all of you
He's
go see
wise too.
if
He's
you're
wise.
banned from Steve Shive's channel. I bet all of us
G-Man-
are.
I'm not.
G-Man is wise to have banned Matt Dillahunty.
Yeah, the odds of Matt coming to his channels. I'm telling you right now, one of the main reasons I want Matt to come into my channel is
I want to hear Art's reason.
it'll piss him off to no end.
Here's the crazy thing. He does magic shows at my daughter's and Anthony Magnamosco's Camp Quest.
Who, G-Man?
And I think no, Matt Dillahunty.
G-Man.
Matt Dillahunty does magic shows at Camp Quest still for Anthony Magnamosco's daughter and my daughter. And I think I could still maybe get Matt on something.
Well, I tell him because he owes me $20. I'll consider it a draw.
He still hasn't paid that.
He still hasn't paid me my $20.
I think he will.
So
I don't
call
want
me
the
back
$20.
on
I
that.
want him to come in. I told him, what's it, $20 of his time? A minute? That's all I'm asking for. Just to say, hey, man,
Exactly.
Matt came into my fucking channel, not yours. Piss off.
Oh, I agree with Steve on this. Steve did earn the $20.
Thank you.
But Aron, what was your reasoning when you said that they were right to ban Matt Dillahunty because what? What were you saying?
Because if Matt Dillahunty and I ever got into an argument, the two of us together, I feel even before the argument begins, even before I could name what the topic is, that I might be able to back it some way that would give me confidence going into the discussion. But I have every suspicion that Matt is so much more accomplished or so much more studied in whatever subject he would criticize me on, that he would probably win that discussion. And in past experience has shown that whenever we have a contention, there's a couple of things that he and I still disagree on after all this time, and there's one or two things I think I could still defend. But for the most part, you know, if it involves philosophy at all, I'm done. That's just it. I look to Matt as a tutor. So while I feel every confidence that I would be able to roll up and smoke G-Man, the sad thing is that G-Man would never understand it.
That's it.
And I think if he were actually to go up against Matt Dillahunty, that Matt Dillahunty would not only be able to squish him like a bug, but make him feel the pain.
He's called in several times to the show, and Matt has already squashed him.
But like Aron says, G-Man doesn't recognize it. He doesn't understand.
That's what I'm saying.
Matt
You guys are
Matt
kind of
destroys them. Destroys
I
G-Man.
think
Destroys
you
him.
guys are doing yourselves a disservice by even entertaining him,
No,
because I think he might be a little bit on the spectrum.
Well, he
I
has
don't
issues.
think
He has
he's
issues.
the type of, you know, he has mental issues.
But
I
Jim,
don't
he
think
puts
it's a good idea to be.
But Jim, hang on. He puts himself out there. Him, Nephilim Free, True Empiricism, all these guys. They make videos about me, make videos about us. You know what? Now, granted, I don't take any of them personally. I know that they are like little children just throwing feces against the wall. They have nothing of value to contribute to any.
I know it's good viewership. It gets your subscriber base up.
Well,
but
you know,
still.
hang on. I don't do it just for that. Let me. It's not just for that. It really isn't. I mean, I'll tell you what. The videos I make, the video I made this morning, unlike whoever was a General Han Solo wanted to watch a 2-hour video, my video was for 51 seconds. 51 seconds. That's the length of my video. Okay, so I don't make these long videos, and I tell you what, those videos get far less views than something like the debate with Ken Hovind and Bill Ludlow, right? I barely get 1,000 views on my video that I made when I have like 20,000 on that other type of format. So I don't make these videos for the views because they don't get as many views as they should, even though the video made today was funny.
Yeah, well, and you know, for my part, it's honestly for the conversation, and you know, there are people that are involved in a conversation. I mean, I know them, you know, offline, and you know, they're nice enough as far as it goes, and you know, they're people who are willing to come out and play, right? I mean, if you like to play,
exactly.
tennis, you'll
It
go to the
just
tennis
feels
club
like
and you'll play
a cat
tennis.
playing with a half-dead mouse.
Yeah,
I didn't
say it's really challenging.
It's not.
Well,
it doesn't feel right.
No, if you want to handicap it. Oh, you want to handicap it? Then what you do is you go to their
definitely.
Then you go to their channel and you let them hold the mute button, because then there's a handicap. Like, I don't care how.
Yeah, but here's the thing. But Jim, when G-Man,
they're gonna delete our comments and block us and censor us and ban us.
But Jim,
there's your handicap.
When G-Man goes on a format, when he goes on to like Drunken Peasants, which has the larger format than any of us here, they are the big ones, right? Drunken Peasants. And when he goes onto that show and he lies about me to an audience,
then you have
several
a fight.
Several thousand,
then
and I am not able to respond to it.
You have a fight.
Right? Then this is the point. This is why we've been having an argument, because he purposely said he was going to go on the Drunken Peasants to say something that I said that I have never said.
It'll probably gain your viewership.
Well, people have been gaining. I have been gaining viewership because they realized G-Man lied. He outright lied.
Aron has 600 patrons. I have one patron.
You have one patron.
I have one patron.
Tell your mom I said hi.
I got 35 patrons.
I have one patron, and guess how much ad revenue I'm gaining on YouTube? It's about $70 a month.
That's not bad, actually.
That's shit. That's shit compared to Aron.
Oh well, yeah. Compared to Aron.
Don't compare yourself to me, because I'm in an extremely rare echelon. I have wanted and longed to be a professional activist in this field for more than a decade. I mean, the fact that I'm barely able to make it. And when I say barely able, I mean, I'm in most
600 patrons, dude. Not barely able to make it.
No, I'm
just
serious.
in Australia.
But on somebody else's dime.
Okay.
The AFA is funding me to go there. As a matter of fact, I was talking to them today, and they said, "Well, are you going to book your tickets?" And I said, "Well, I can't. And the problem that I have is that I don't have $2,000 or $3,000 to book tickets to Australia, to then wait for reimbursement for that. You know, I can't." So
yeah, these things cost money. They're definitely a financial investment, to say the least.
The fortunate thing is that my previous.
If I asked all of you how much you have poured into your channel, and me personally, I poured $5,000 to $7,000 into audio visual lighting software. People don't realize.
Yeah, I do because I spent a good 10, 15 years as an activist in this very field before I ever started making money off of it. You know, I dedicated a really unhealthy amount of my time to this before I started making money. I remember when my own son, criticized me for wasting all of my time doing this online activism. He says, because it's not going to pay anything. You're just wasting all your time. And that just happened to be, fortunately for me, that happened to be the very day that I was ready to tell him that I had just been invited to come to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at the invitation of James Randi himself, to be the keynote speaker for their Darwin Day celebration. So
You son of a
fuck
bitch.
up, you little fucking punk.
Yeah, really. How cool is that? Well, you know, it's not just that. I mean, I think it's fine people do activism work, but I tell you, I'm much more impressed with the fact that you have a potential to get into politics and make a difference. That's what I'm more concerned about.
Yeah, that's big. That's
well,
big.
Well, thank you very much. And while that is important, I mean, I realize what kind of odds I'm going up against. I have to be realistic about that. But the other thing to think about was, while you're talking about it being shit, that I was making some money off of YouTube revenue for a couple of years before I went full on like commitment to Patreon and everything, and the situation was such that I barely made anything, and the only thing that I was getting out of it was I was somehow speaking somewhere every month, which was advantageous, but I'm not making any money out of it. So somehow I was getting famous, but still broke.
Right on. Exactly.
So yeah, so I was still struggling very, very hard, and right now I'm still struggling very, very hard. I mean, Dillahunty is doing a whole lot better financially than I am, and so is Seth, and deservedly so, because I mean they both have extreme talent.
No, I think no, that's not correct. And remember, Aron is a top tier atheist, a professional atheist, and if that's where we're at now. So everyone under him is still just scraping by.
And it's so funny. I actually put the word out to theists that would come in and engage. I ended up having more atheists come in and take on Aron, which I thought was kind of surprising. It's kind of a shame because I was hoping that there are a lot of theists in the community. I wasn't going to get like G-Man or Nephilim, but I mean some theists that you know, slightly controversial, that don't make, I think, the greatest videos. I would rather have them come in and engage with something like Aron because I would enjoy listening to something like that. But unfortunately, they all ran away. No, I
am actually trying to run a series. I want to do an additional series now that I'm no longer doing the Noah's Ark thing. I have the podcast where I try to spotlight progressive people, you know, people who are doing something to make a positive difference. But I miss the arguing with people, and so I'm trying to do another series where I try to reason people out of unreasonable beliefs. So I talked to this guy who doesn't appear to want to come back for a second round on why he believes in the resurrection. I've been trying for a couple, you know, for 3 weeks at least, to get this guy who met me in Los Angeles, who was arguing that he can prove like young Earth creationism, whatever. I've been trying to get him on a podcast, but he doesn't understand that there are things like computers and webcam. So he's like a little bit behind. Yeah, thank you. And I want to get a flat earther on my show once, because I know how the flat
I'll hook you up.
I know that these guys have got to understand that what they're selling complete bullshit, and they can't go off script. So if they got on a recorded, real-time, live conversation video with me, they would fuck up their own cause by going off script and then admitting something that compromises the rest of their position. And this is why they won't do it.
When you're ready to do that, you let me know. You have my email. I will find you. Okay, you have to give me a spectrum though. 1 to 5, 5 being absolute batshit crazy. 1 is just being batshit crazy. So I mean, they're all crack. They're flat earthers. I mean, what spectrum do you want? Because I was just on Redrick's channel earlier today. We were doing, well, I was on his live feed, but
ask all of them. See if any of them.
Really?
I got a real question.
Hogtie, you heard it right here from Aron. I'm warning him against this. It's not a good idea. Yeah, he doesn't know what the hell he's up against with these nutters.
I'm hesitant. I haven't jumped to that conclusion yet. Okay. But sorry, is it your position, Aron, that sort of the lot of them are just, they don't really believe it, that they're sort of, why do you think they say the earth is flat?
Because it's a big prank thing, like the Christians against dinosaurs.
Not all of them, Aron. I'm telling you, I know legit ones. I know.
Well, good. Get me a legit one then.
I'm thinking Betty. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah,
I would love to get into a real-time conversation, a recorded conversation with one of these people who legit.
I will definitely make that happen.
We'll set it up. We'll set it up. And Aron, you got to come to Jesus.
I have to explain.
Some of these people. That just means.
I have to explain to you guys. I've been offered a half a dozen people before. They all chicken out. They will.
Well, we'll see. Betty actually, she debated Reds, and she's actually up for dumb fuck of the year because she actually said something on there that was so dumb. She said that the Earth was illuminated. The Earth gives its own light. I don't try to. I know you're not good at that physics stuff.
The Bible says the moon gives its own light. So
okay, I've heard that argument before.
No, right? It's a real thing. I can show you the.
No, I know, but the moon does. The moon doesn't. It's not. The moon doesn't shine its own light. Okay, it's not.
Well, the Bible says it does.
It's wrong. But
actually, just to represent General Han Solo here, he would point out that the phrase there, to give off light, is in fact the same phrase that is used to describe.
Remember to stretch out before you perform mental gymnastics.
But Zachary, we found out the other day, according, and I'm not lying to you, according to G-Man, a serpent does not mean snake.
Oh God!
We'll figure that one out.
I hate to have to do this, but I have discovered that serpent does not necessarily mean snake. It often refers to animals that have legs.
Well, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say that it means was it the shiny one?
Sure.
That well, if we're on this, I can actually defend that.
That whole reference to the shiny one / Venus / Lucifer is an actual reference to Nebuchadnezzar II in the Old Testament. It never was a reference to Satan.
I think it was a reference to
Lucifer. Nebuchadnezzar II is Lucifer.
So Nebuchadnezzar is the one that seduced Eve?
Read the passage in the Old Testament about Lucifer, and you will find it is Nebuchadnezzar II, not Satan.
Okay, so you are aware I've already read that, right? And somehow I didn't come across Nebuchadnezzar in there anywhere.
Okay, I got some homework then.
Another lookup for you.
I got another look.
I don't know how we went from snakes and tetrapods or whatever to that, but whatever.
It only works if you read it in the original Hebrew while standing on one leg on a chair.
under a new moon.
I didn't see that whole debate, Aron, but I really struggled with that part of it. I typed in the live chat too about, because it means something else. But I was like, doesn't it say more subtle than any other beast? It's the first fucking line. Like, and you did catch that. I'm glad. But
it's like the other guy that argued that Adam was the serpent.
Okay, I haven't heard that one.
How much more of the story can you ignore to realize? Okay, so God is talking to the serpent, and then he talks to Eve, and then he talks to Adam. Why is he talking back to the snake? Why is it describing two different characters? But this is where you get into somebody's interpretation, and once you have an interpretation issue, you can't correct that.
All right, I tell you what. Like I said, I will. Maybe you think you might be able to do something like that next month with a flat earther if I find you one.
Do the flat earth thing. Do it.
I will absolutely. I will take any.
That
will suck for any flat earther.
Oh, wait till he meets Quantum Eraser.
Okay.
No.
Hogtie, shush. He said anybody. He's a flat earth. Hey, Quantum Eraser is a flat earther. He falls in that category. He's level 6 on a 1 to 5.
Yeah,
you get me any, and I would hope that it'd be somebody that sincerely believes that shit.
Oh, he does. He does.
well, that's the point of dispute here. Like, okay, surely you're not saying that none of them believe it. Like, you think that there's some percentage that do.
No, I've run across one guy who believes that the Earth is a bowl, and that all of space. And all of space is confined into a single kind of like a singularity because of our because of the convex globe that we live on.
Oh, are you talking about Commando? Is that who you're talking about?
Oh my God, he's the guy that had his own kids taken away from him because
Von Helton.
Von Helton.
You're talking about Von Helton
because he left the fruit rotting in the. Oh, okay.
But he thinks the world is a convex bowl. And he did actually have, other people were reporting to me that he had his own kids taken away because he's not mentally sane. He's living on welfare because he's unemployable because he's fucking nuts.
Well, have you seen video of him? Like, is he a smallish, older guy, no teeth, and just constantly yelling and angry?
No, not
that. Okay, different guy then.
Yeah, it could be Lord Stephen Christ.
The guy that I saw it looked like he was in his late 30s and not capable of comprehension.
Yeah, well, this is weird. Flat earthers having their kids taken away from them. Not that rare of a phenomenon. It happens for unrelated things. I mean, the government does take your kids away.
If they can't understand something as basic as the shape of the Earth, their parenting skills.
That's not that. It's the imparting the paranoia onto your kids, right?
The government and everything else.
I mean, you can have one and still raise your kids, but those people also tend to believe in the government's out to kill you, and you can't do vaccines and
chemtrails.
And that sort of thing, and a lot of them present dangerous circumstances for.
I've been trying for more than a year to get any flat earther to get.
Oh, you come to the right place.
You didn't ask, man. Steve and I some of these guys.
I was asking them directly. I was going to the YouTube channel.
I got connections. I'll hook you, man. Trust me. I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal with you. I'll make a deal with you. If I get you the most quintessential flat earther that actually believes it, that will have a great conversation with you that you can decimate. You at least try to get me Matt one of these days. Or help me.
How do I get you Matt?
To come in for Matt Millen Hunt.
Do you know that Dillahunty has a professional agent now?
Oh, does he?
You have a professional agent.
See, he didn't have that a few years ago. That was a lot easier.
No, he didn't. This is recent.
Yeah.
But this is why when you book Matt Dillahunty now, you get him with Lawrence Krauss or with Richard Dawkins or with Steve Harris. You get them all on stage together.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's actually a good way to go.
Yeah. Now, see, I'm still getting screwed because I'm still showing up to places and not getting paid.
Promote your Patreon. Go ahead. Let him promote his Patreon.
Okay.
Well, yes, I am a full-time activist. I'm going to have to run in a couple of minutes, but I am a full-time activist. This is all I do, and this is really all I do. I don't play video games. It's rare for me to take a break to do like a couple hour things like I'm doing right now, because all I ever do is do the research to produce the other videos. We do an educational classroom supplement series on teaching biology to middle school and high school students, which unapologetically includes evolution in that. I do my podcast wherein I try to spotlight progressive people who are actually making a difference to make things better. And of course, my next guest on that show is going to be Wendy Davis and other activists who are running for governor, if I can get them to respond to me. We also do the presentations, like the recent presentations I did this month were in Fullerton, California, Los Angeles, California, Cahuga Falls, Ohio, and North Charleston, South Carolina for the Eclipse Party for the American Atheist National Convention. Those presentations I will upload. I don't usually have 4 in a month because that's kind of ridiculous. I usually only do 1 a month, and I try to do educational stuff. I do the activism stuff. I do things that are promoting secular politics, and when I can, I will give testimony either to the boards of education, or I will give them to the state house or whatever. You know, go down to the Capitol many times to testify against the bills that they're running, and do all of that kind of activism. I don't know what else I can say about the challenge. That I'm trying earnestly to be the hardest working atheist activist there is.
Do you still do Atheist Experience?
Atheist Experience, I haven't been on in, I don't know, it's been a few years, because the last time I was there, my daughter actually showed up with me, and I thought that was very nice. I mean, she showed up to watch me in action, so to speak. Unfortunately, that third, it was the fourth, actually. It was the fourth time I'd been on, and every call we got was people who were saying, yeah, I just want to say that what you're doing is really great, and keep up doing the great work because it's really great. I went, well, yeah, thanks. Boring TV.
Yeah,
it's hard. You know, the praise is nice. I don't know if you saw DPR hosted a thing. Potholer 54 was supposed to be doing a debate. Then the debate fell through, and it ended up being a call-in thing and talk to Potholer. Well, people were just lined up to be like, "Oh yeah, I really love your videos," and it is nice to hear. But boy, it sure kills a lot of air.
I was the first caller. I was thrilled to death to talk to Potholer, but I had actual questions about climate change that I asked him.
Aron, we appreciate the time and the effort it took you to come on for the last 2 days, and
oh yeah, absolutely.
And on behalf of everyone, we thank you.
Yeah, and I'll find you the flat earther regardless. You know, I'm still going to get somebody from me.
Y'all know how to contact me, right?
Yeah, I got your email.
Okay, good.
And
it's all nice to finally meet you.
But hey, when you do get a chance, I put in the link here. I'll put it one more time. Like I said, this is only a 51-second video, so it's not much of your time.
Who is Carrie?
I'm a member of the Clergy Project. I contacted you once or twice.
Okay, very good. Because you when I first saw your image, it surprised me because you looked like the guy that flew me out to Dubai last year.
I actually have a picture that I took with Imagine No Religion. Matt Dillahunty was there. I stood there, and we stood side by side. We look very much alike when I'm not smiling.
All right. Well, good talking to you. I'm sorry that I'm going to have to duck out and everything.
Take care.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'll let you know when I have a flat earth for you next month. I got connections.
That'll be good.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
I gotta see that. I gotta see that. Make it happen.
He has no idea what he's in for.
It'll be a slam dunk.
It will be entertaining, right? There's no way it's not going to be entertaining for viewers, right?
It'll be entertaining.
It'll be good. It'll be good.
You have it on your channel. Yeah, I'll watch.
Or nothing more than pure viewership.
I got someone in mind. There are 2 people in mind, and Aron, you've got a stride. You've got a way of dealing with this, but you're going to hear some different words that you haven't heard before. It'll be neat to watch you think on your feet.
Okay,
it'll be fun. We'll do it.
All right. Talk to you later, guys.
Thanks, Aron.
See you.
Take care.
Too bad he had to specify flat earther, because if I would have said, Edgar, but he's not a flat earther. He's just a crazy.
Aron's patience is a little low for. I don't understand what you're talking. Yeah.
Speak English. Yeah.
Steve. Yeah, it's the. I mean, Edgar's got this kind of long meandering, like where is he going with his point, and then words don't mean the same things, and Aron doesn't. He's dismissive. He'll turn his back on that sort of thing. But a flat earther that's short and punchy, and I know just the guy.
Steve, tell me if that was not much more lighthearted and fun than last time.
That's why I took it to this channel.
Yeah, but did I not guide this to
You did
where it
fine.
would be more fun and lighthearted?
You did fine. You did
I think I did.
You did.
Now, my last question that I never got to, you guys want to answer it?
Who?
There's what, 6 of us in here?
Sure.
You want to answer this?
But is Hogtie going to tell me the name in the group chat there of the person he's thinking of, or is it somebody that I know?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Hogtie's
here.
I don't know. He'll go for it. For this guy.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us in here now. You want to answer this question?
Yeah. What's the question?
I'm gonna start with Zachary. I'm gonna go backwards. Okay, ready?
Okay, leave me to last because sorry, AFK 4 minutes.
That was the other person I was thinking of. Hogtie.
Listen-
Oh my God.
Listening.
Well, I'm
AFK.
gonna start with Zachary. Is Zachary here?
Yeah, what's up?
If there were irrefutable evidence that gods do not exist, would you want to know? And B, if so, how would this information change your life?
Oh yeah, for sure. If there were irrefutable proof, I mean, that would be amazing.
Irrefutable. I mean, everyone knows. Everyone. How would it change your life?
Stop being a Christian immediately.
What would
I
you
have
do?
no question about it.
How would you live your life differently?
Well, I'd probably have a lot more sex than I have now. Kind of saving myself from marriage because I think that's a Christian ethic.
How so? Are you married?
Do what?
You're married?
No, not yet.
So
Soon to be.
you would have a lot more
No,
sex.
not
How
yet.
would that change? Why would that change?
Well, because my understanding of marriage is something that is expressly defined in context as a covenant with God.
But you've been having sex outside of marriage up till now, right?
No, I'm sorry.
Get quiet.
He's pleading the fifth.
You've been having sex outside of marriage up until now, right? Yes.
No, as long as I've been a Christian, specifically because I do not believe that I should have sex outside of marriage. That's personal conviction based off of my Christian beliefs. I know not all Christians share my belief, but that is my
Okay. All right. All right.
my own belief. But that's grounded in my belief in God and my interpretation of Scripture. So if I didn't believe in God, that would probably be the first thing to go.
You would have more sex.
I mean, that's just
you realize you still have to find a willing partner. So it's just like, you're just going to go out. I'm going to become an atheist and let's go have sex right now. It doesn't exactly work that way.
Ochinawa, what would you do differently if there was irrefutable proof that God does not exist?
Well, I don't think I would change my morality because I think there's secular reasons for accepting morality. But well, obviously I wouldn't. So like I spend a lot of time arguing for the existence of God, and obviously I wouldn't be doing that. And I think I actually would probably remain in the institutions that I'm in, because I think that, like, I'm a Catholic. I think I would probably remain in that institution because I think it's the last place that holds my type of morality that I believe in.
So you would follow the traditions of the Catholics, even though you knew that Jesus didn't exist,
right?
That it was a false theory.
Yeah.
Okay. Lamise.
Yeah, can I be heard?
Yes.
Can I be heard?
Hey, girl.
Oh, hi. Okay, so what is the question?
If there was irrefutable proof that God does not exist, how would it change your life, and what would you do about it?
Well, I don't believe that God exists, and if God exists, I think that maybe he's just the universe. So the process of being theist to atheist, I'm already in it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Carrie.
So I think that if science proves that there is possibility for the existence of God, maybe I will return back to being theist.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
She's from Jordan. She has a really shitty connection.
Yeah, I think she said she would go back to being a theist, but that can't be right.
She said
Well,
if
she was.
Sorry, go ahead. Well, I just said she
Go ahead.
she was saying
I
if she
said
saw proof of
if
the
there's
existence of God.
possibility for the existence.
Yeah, if there was irrefutable proof that God did not exist, though.
She used to be a theist.
Okay.
She was a Muslim.
I
Right?
said if science proves there is existence for the God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, if science proves the existence of God, I don't know. Are you asking though, Jim? Are you saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't give a positive explanation for God, but I said if God was proven to not exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just go ahead and jump in on my 2 cents. If there was a irrefutable evidence for non-existence of any deities, my life would not change 1 iota. If there was irrefutable evidence of Yahweh as the sole creator of the universe, my knees, you would hear them across the country. They would hit the ground so hard, and I would repent my ass off.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I'm like the quintessential agnostic in the group, but I would say the same thing, right? I mean, look at it. If the only difference would be if God does not exist, then obviously any discussion we have with theist is just going to be trivial and name only kind of thing, right? Because you're assuming that the evidence is like overwhelming, that everybody knows. Okay.
Yes.
And obviously, there's no more discussions on the internet.
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Debate when it comes to
no more channels. My channel's gone. Your channel's gone. Everyone.
Well, I'd move on.
We'd find stuff to talk about. We find lots of stuff to talk about. Other than there's still lots of science.
Right,
sure. But I'm talking about with relation to
it would
God.
take a big chunk out, right, of the conversation.
If Yahweh did exist, and let's say his big hand came out of the clouds and he scooped some of us up, I'd be on my knees, repenting my ass off.
And let me say this very distinctly here, because they had a hangout the other night, and I'm not saying people are bullshitting. I'm just going to cut. What's it when you're not somebody doesn't lie, but you're going to throw the I don't think so kind of thing. They were all saying, look, if God exists, would you worship him? And we had people going, oh no, God no. And I'm thinking of it, if balls came to tax, whatever the hell it is. What was the expression? Idiom?
Brass tacks.
Yeah, when it comes to brass tacks, look at if God himself appeared to you, you'd be like, holy shit. And you would get down on your knees and you'd praise him, and you would not want to be sent to hell because of your fucking, own objective of morality or whatever. You wouldn't care at that point, right?
Even the ones that thought he was a moral monster, they would still get on their knees.
I think most of them would. I really do.
I don't believe any of these people that say that.
I think it's lip service.
Like that's.
I would immediately be a mesotheist if he was proven to exist, because if there's anything that you can know from his characters as portrayed in the Bible, it's not a good thing.
Well, that's a good point.
But if your tiny 3.5 pound wet wired hard drive in your head, it gives you anything, it would give you the knowledge that eternal torment of gnashing of teeth in a lake of sulfur is not the way to go, and you would definitely get on your knees.
Yeah, I mean, people avoid that shit. Hang on, people avoid that shit in real life to leaders that they know are pieces of shit, but they still, give them praise. I mean, look at North Korea, right? You don't see a lot of them going, I'm gonna say that Kim Jong is an asshole. They don't go around doing that kind of stuff, right? They play the game. Now, but here's let me say this. Even though I'm an agnostic, there are certain things I believe and I don't believe. I do not believe that the literal hell, like some Christians, not all, but some Christians portrayed of the fire and brimstone. I don't read that. I don't think it exists. I don't believe in it. I'm not scared of it.
What if it were right though?
But if it was right,
scare the shit out of you.
If it's if it was real, then of course I would be like, fuck no. I believe whatever you want to believe. I will worship you. I will suck your dick. Whatever. It makes no difference.
Okay, well, I still didn't get to answer the first question yet. But you guys are raising a good point about if there's definite proof that there is God. People are going to give different answers depending on what they think that God would be. I mean, my answer to the one, as I've been asked this before too by theists, but what would I do if I definitely came to believe in God? Well, my first thing, I'd be so curious about this God. I would want to learn everything about his nature, everything he wants me to do, and then I would not want there to be the God that is described by some of the more radical evangelicals out there, because that God is just a bizarre tyrant. Again, I don't at all subscribe to this thing when people say, "Oh, I just tell them to fuck off." Like, you would not tell God to fuck off. You would live in fear.
No, you would not.
But you mentioned Kim Jong Un or Kim Jong Il, all those guys. I don't think. I mean, you add the extra element of this God knows the content of your heart. So you can be like, "Oh, God's wonderful, God's great, no sacrifice for us, blah blah blah." But in your head, you're like, "Oh my God, this guy's an asshole. You know, I hope he doesn't send me to hell." Well, God knows that. So that's the alarming thing. Can I answer the first part?
Steve, did you answer it already or not?
Yeah, I answered it my own way.
A Nasi.
Close enough.
A Nasi?
Yes, pretty much.
Hit me up. What do you got?
So which question am I answering? I recall
if there were unequivocal evidence that God existed, how would it change your life? I'm sorry, did I say not exist? Not existed.
Yeah. You do the not existed first.
Yeah, okay. If there was irrefutable evidence that God did not exist, how would it change your life?
It wouldn't really change my life all that much because I myself am already an atheist and I argue with people online just for the hell of it.
What if there was irrefutable evidence that God did exist? How would it change your life?
Obviously, it would depend on the God, but for the most part, my daily activities wouldn't really change because I'm not really into the whole worship thing.
What if Yahweh was proven to be existence?
If there was some argument or something, and if not everyone accepted it, I might be arguing for that because I would think it's true. But if everyone accepted that argument, then I would just stop having theological conversations and continue doing the rest of the things I do in my life, like video games and science and shit. Although mostly video games.
Awesome. That's all I had, Steve. I am tapped out.
Well,
except for what is the statistical probability that you would be a Hindu right now if you were born in India and your parents were Hindu?
You really don't want my answer to that question.
You guys want to answer that one?
Go to the Hindu thing then. Fine.
If you were born in India and your parents were Hindu and everyone around you was Hindu, what's I'm not drunk. I just can't say statistical probability that you would be a Hindu, and how would that be different?
We should ask Lenise that question because she was raised in she was raised in a Muslim type environment, and I think environmentally she became a Muslim because of that.
My point is
now she's an atheist.
Okay, my point is no matter what religion you choose, there's still no matter what. Okay, let's say you pick the most common religion, which is what? Guys, go. What's the most common religion? Nope, Christianity.
Well, okay.
They're pretty
Catholicism
close.
and Protestantism meld into Christianity. Christianity is the number one religion. Islam be number two. So if you're born a Christian, you still are a minority on the global level. Yes?
Sure. There's not more non-Christians than Christians on the planet.
Exactly. There's only 2 billion Christians on Earth. There's 7 billion people on Earth. No matter what religion you choose, you're a minority. So if God does exist, he's allowing at the very least 2/3 of the world's population to burn in hell.
I don't think that's correct. Because
that's inscrutable because you don't know how long human history is going to continue.
I'm talking right now.
3,000 years from now.
Right now.
Yeah, you are talking.
Popular religion is only 1/3 of the population.
Also, there's a doctrine of
invincible ignorance. It was only like what?
I'm talking right now.
Yeah, there's the doctrine of invincible ignorance, which says that if you can't be culpable for things that you don't know, which is not out of the fault of your own, basically.
Babies go to heaven. Yeah, I get it.
Or people that have never been exposed to Christianity, or the people who were raised in a situation where
it's like that joke where the explorers go up to Alaska and they meet the Inuits that are hunting walruses, and they teach them the gospel of Christ, and like, why did you teach me this? Because I want to save you. Why? I want to save you because Jesus said, okay, what if you had not told me? Well, you'd go to heaven. Then why did you even tell me? Why did you even tell me then?
Well, look, I think that a life with truth is better than a life without truth. So if
when it comes to salvation,
what does that matter to an infinite reward of
heaven? The eternity. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're already guaranteed salvation, why would you take anything to try to fuck that up?
Right on, man. Exactly.
Well, you're going to live in eye blink in ignorance or even misinformed, and then for eternity, you know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, what the reality is like, oh well, you know what? In that case, you're better off dying at infancy. If that was the case.
You are, aren't you?
Well, no, I don't. Again, I'm agnostic to certain beliefs. I don't believe, or I could believe, and Christianity unfortunately has a lot of different beliefs, right? I mean, there's just not one size fits all. I don't believe things like eternal damnation. I don't read that anywhere. I don't think that's. I would rather.
It's in there.
Well, I think it really actually more deals with nihilism than it does going to this hell thing. Hell didn't come much later.
You
right?
read the gnashing of teeth and the lake of sulfur and the burning in your own feces and the skin ripped off of you. And
I mean, you guys are also just assuming that the only criteria for going to heaven is knowing God. There would be other things, other people that don't know God would still be doing immoral things. If they're a moral person, you could be judged them based upon that.
There's only one way to get to God is to accept Jesus as your savior. If you don't do that, you don't get to God.
Sure. Well, and that could happen after death, which is what some people
I know Christians don't believe that. I've asked Christians, look at according to John 3:16, if you whoever still love the world, you believe in God or Jesus is, and I said, look at if somebody like I hate to go all Hitler on us, but since he's like the go-to thing, right?
I was going to go to a Hitler example. Yeah.
Godwin's law, you lose.
It didn't get brought up last time. Goodwin's law has to be applied now. So, if Hitler did pray and ask forgiveness, could he have been saved? Well, most Christians I have talked to have actually said, if he has a repentant heart, if he is, really, really, really sorry, then yes, he could be saved. However, I met one Christian just recently that said, no, absolutely not. He can't be. I'm like, then you just invalidated John 3:16.
Right on.
I have a twist on that.
All of Christianity.
I have a twist on that. And actually, before that, I mentioned that I do know I've seen posts and stuff from evangelicals who are really happy about the amazing, like God's grace is just so amazing because Jeffrey Dahmer is in heaven, is their understanding.
Maybe
in heaven after judgment.
Maybe.
Well, he repent. Yeah. Well, they don't know. You can't see that, but they're saying that the God is so forgiving that even somebody who does what Jeffrey Dahmer had done would qualify for being in heaven. So going back to the Hitler thing, when you ask them, as Steve was just raising, well, what if? And we don't know what happened to Hitler in the bunker, but what if in the last moments he knew it. He just developed that personal relationship with Jesus Christ under John 3:16 and 17. When he hits that dividing line, he goes on the right side, so good for him. But I had a different question, and it was because I was listening to a hangout where these guys were talking about that babies, that all babies go to heaven. So let's look at the scenario where Hitler doesn't repent. So Hitler's just being Hitler his whole life. It doesn't work out for him. The Russians are there in Berlin, and he shoots himself, and he either doesn't believe in God or he hates God or whatever it is, but he doesn't repent. He doesn't do any of the things that under John chapter 3 would qualify him for salvation. So obviously he's going to hell. But my question is, what would have happened if somebody would have, if Hitler would have died as a baby, or somebody would have killed little baby Adolf? What would have happened to his soul then?
He would have been like saved, I guess. Wouldn't he?
Some people argue that. I don't know if it's so clear because God could know the intentions of their heart. The question is, whether a baby has that kind of intention.
All right, go ahead.
I'm done.
I think it's a relevant question, though. God knows that it's counterfactual, right? And he has this middle knowledge. And people actually say, well, God will put you in a situation where, look at, if you are in A, you'll choose X. If you're in B, you choose Y. Well, you have a free choice, but God knows what you're going to do in each situation. So he knows at A, you're going to choose X, and B, you're going to choose Y, but you're free to choose either one. But God's going to put you in the situation to get the desired outcome of X, because that's what God wants. God must have known every counterfactual condition and known these things were going to happen. So he obviously didn't want Hitler to die at birth, so it's kind of a mute point. It's like asking, what if? So what? These what ifs to me don't mean anything if that's not the way God wanted it to be.
I think you're making a mistake here, though, because God doesn't know things prior to when they happen, since God is timeless. He knows it in a
he knows, according to William Lane Craig and others, he knows intermediate knowledge.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
And if he has intermediate knowledge,
40,000 denominations later.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't have it both ways. I mean, if God has intermediate knowledge and he knows where to put you in a condition, he actually put it so that Hitler didn't die at birth.
Is General in here?
Ochiwawa, just on that comment, God's being timeless doesn't actually impact the whether or not he knows whether things happens or not.
Right,
Luis
but I mean,
who developed middle knowledge affirmed God's timelessness, and he didn't seem to say that was in any tension at all.
Right, but it means that I thought he was arguing for some sort of determinism regarding God's cause.
Not really. No, not determinism. I'm arguing more of of
Molinism? Is that what you're
it's Molinism. Yeah, it's Molinism. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is General in here? No.
Which, by the way, why Wayne's a Molinist?
Hey guys, me, General Han Solo. What can I do for you today?
That's not. It sounded close, man. But
That's not too bad.
Say, put another shrimp on the Barbie.
Hey guys, just going out to go put another shrimp on the barbie.
Nope, that's not General Han Solo.
But you saying all Australians sound alike now?
No, I've learned from another Australian that they don't even use the word shrimp; they use prawns, so that's inaccurate as well.
Who's the comedian? His name slipped my mind now.
Crocodile Dundee?
Oh Jesus, no, no, the funny comedian.
Yahoo Serious.
No, come on, the guy he's Jim Jeffries. Jim Jeffries has a bit about that. He says, "Oh, Paul Hogan says, putting the shrimp on the Barbie," and that's all we say now. But they call it prawns, and he's annoyed by that quotation.
I'll do you one better.
Who's a devout atheist, by the way?
I was messing with General one time, impersonating him like that, and I made him quote unquote say y'all, and he thought it was hilarious.
Well, in English, there is no word for you in the plural. See, I speak Spanish and Japanese, and in both languages there is you in the plural. But in English, we either have to say y'all for the South, or Northern we say yous. There is no word for you in the plural in English. Yous or y'all.
What? Say that again.
Or you
in
all,
English,
if you want to not contract it.
In English, if you want to say you in the plural, if you live in the South United States, you say y'all. In the North United States, you say yous. But there is no actual word for you in the plural in English. In Spanish, it's ustedes. It means y'all. They actually have a word for it, ustedes.
Most languages do. Yeah, we have a different. Well, there's a confusion because singular. You'll use the plural form in formal circumstances. So it's a little confusing here, but we did have, I just told this story at another hangout, but we had a lawyer from Missouri or Missouri, one of the two. And she was so this is in Eastern Canada. And I noticed like she'd always say things like, y'all going for lunch? And it was just always y'all. And you didn't want to make fun of her too much because it's like people making fun of Canadians for saying a. Which we do once in a while, but okay, so shut the fuck up, whatever. So, but she's a y'all, and you don't want to tease her about it all the time. But then I remember one time there was me and two other coworkers, and she said something about a similar sort of thing where she goes, "Where are all y'all going to lunch?" And I said, "Is that it? Is that the plural form? Is y'all when you're talking to one person?" Because she'd say, where y'all want to go for lunch? Who are you talking to? It's just me, right? But then if there's three of us around, are all y'all going for lunch? I say, oh, so y'all is singular and all y'all is what it's plural.
It covers so many different things. Yeah,
I never got that figured out.
That's a good point. I never thought of that.
Yeah,
y'all,
it's foreign to me.
Anyway, I think that might be a stopping point there.
Yeah, I think we're about done on this. Jim, do you want to engage a flat earther too? Should we find one for you?
You know what? I would just spend too much time laughing my ass off, but I'll come in and laugh with Aron.
Well, let me ask you. I'll just say real quick. The other option is we have to at least engage you with Edgar once. He was in my live feed and he was just being timed out every time because I have a rule. He can't use the word intelligence or any derivation of the word. He's banned from it. But
interesting. I'm down for anything. As long as it's fun, uplifting, and it builds bridges and it promotes camaraderie.
I know this is pure mockery. Pure mockery. I'm
well, on that point, though,
here's the other thing. I've made for the last 5 years, my New Year's resolution has always been to not speak ill of the dead or absent. That's why when you guys shit talk G-Man, I can't be a part of that. Like your shit talk Tuesdays, I can't do that. I don't. If you go back to my entire video library in my channel, I do not name call. I don't shit talk. I speak only to their ideas. So that being the case, I can't. If I take G-Man, I'm going to attack only his ideas. So it might not be fun.
Hey, no, I get you for that.
Jim, if you want, I am having a hangout with a guy called Classical Theist. tomorrow on classical theism.
I've got 2 interviews tomorrow already. Tomorrow's no good, but do you? I am at, if you hit me up on Atheist Edge, the Facebook channel or the YouTube or the Patreon or the Twitter, anything / or at Atheist Edge, you'll find me. But yeah, I've got 2 interviews tomorrow. It's 4 hours total, so it's going to take up all my time.
Well, I tell you, whenever we run things, you just keep checking the Facebook pages and stuff like that. You'll know when we have these.
I've got a doctor of apologetics coming on for 2 hours talking about Ouija boards and the occult, and then another 2 hours.
I got an interest in that one.
And then I've got another 2-hour interview back to back. That one is him, an old guy and his wife. They've been married 40 years, and he is a militant atheist, and she is an evangelical Christian. They've been married 40 years, and I'm gonna ask, how does that work?
I'm curious about the Ouija board one, because I used to play with a Ouija board quite often. Weird experiences, really weird experiences.
We're going to start with that, but I've done my research. I know where it's going to go, and it's going to go to gospel historicity.
Yeah. See, I gotta be honest. I can't attribute the ideomotor effect to everything that's happened when I've used a board before. I just can't. It's not a total explanation for things. So. It's a weird thing. I have to be honest with myself. There's things that I cannot.
Have you ever done it yourself?
Oh yeah.
And it still moves.
Oh yeah. And I have a witness.
Psychosomatic,
and I still talk to this today.
Psychosomatic.
30 years later, I'm still talking to this person. I've totally forgot. No. I forgot it was her. She actually, the experience we had.
You're still talking, but I closed down like 5 seconds ago.
Well, the rest of you, she actually was part of this, and the experiences we had were shared, and also have another person who shared these experiences as well. So it's not like it's something that is just to me. So there is something that I've always had all my life. I can't fully explain, but they are interesting. But yeah, you can use it by yourself, and weird shit can happen.
Oh, dude, really?
Yeah, really.
That's crazy.
I'll tell you my stories in another hangout. Okay.
That I would love to hear it.
Because I'm a rational person, right? But I have to be.
Yes,
honest,
you are.
Right. I'm not like someone to make up stories or embellish. And I have witnesses on my Facebook page.
Occam's razor, if nothing else. The simplest explanation tends to be the right one. You're right off. You're right off.
But there's a misconception with that. The simplest explanation is the one with the least amount of assumptions when you have competing hypotheses.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Wait. That both can explain the phenomenon. I don't have a competing hypothesis that can explain the hypothesis.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
So, anyways, guys, we're going to end this. This was a great little after hangout. Jim's awesome. We love having the
love you guys.
Atheist Edge on, and Hogtie popped in for a while, and we had Aron. So this little channel here is more chill. I like that. But you guys will know when we have future events. I've got a lot of stuff planned up. We're gonna have the living dinosaur on soon. How cool is that? We're gonna have. You're familiar with him?
Oh, he's badass.
Awesome. We have Rachel Oates coming on soon. Do you know her?
Nope.
I don't.
Hey, you will.
I'm not familiar with that one.
She's adorable. She's taken, guys, but she is cute. Oh God! And we also hopefully have Zoe Does Life.
Yep, I know her.
Okay.
No.
And of course the rest, like Holy Kool-Aid and all those other guys who pop in all the time.
Thomas Westbrook, I'm getting him on my channel as soon as he comes back to the area.
Yeah, he's making a video tonight. That's why he had tweeted me something about General Han Solo.
He was in Aron Ra's literally his Aron Ra's backyard.
I know, isn't that cool?
Just like 2 months ago, and I missed him.
Yeah, they have a video out, but he was doing a video tonight. That's why he couldn't pop in. But yeah, we love Thomas. He makes awesome videos. Cosmic Skeptic, I've talked to before. He's supposed to be joining us with Rationality Rule, which is Steve.
Oh, that Cosmic Skeptic, Alex J. O'Connor.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you guys are doing great things.
Excellent video on the whole Kalam. It was fantastically done.
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet, so don't spoil it for me. I've seen it, but I haven't got a chance to watch it.
Terrible. Sorry.
Can I spoil this season finale of Game of Thrones? No, I'm just.
I don't watch it, so I don't care.
No,
don't spoil it. But I'm not. By the way, if anybody cares, it's Aron Ra. Everybody say it now. Aron.
One
I already
R.
know how to
One
pronounce
R.
it, dude.
One R.
Everybody screws it up. All right. Peace out, guys.